Cha-cha on the ballroom beat. You got 2 left feet. Get on the ballroom beat. They're dancing in the street. They're on the ballroom beat. We can tango, we can swing, we can do anything. Walking through the door and waltz on the floor. You wanna feel the heat? Get on the ballroom beat. Cha-cha on the ballroom beat. Foxtrot on the ballroom beat. Salsa on the ballroom beat. Cha-cha on the ballroom beat.
Good evening and welcome to On the Ballroom Beat. I'm your host, Lania Berger, and I am taking you through a century of dancing on the silver screen. Now, if you tuned in last week, you got to see, we went all the way back to 1897 with the dance Serpentine, which was one of the very first things to be recorded on film. We also moved into the 20th century with Vernon and Irene Castle dancing the foxtrot in Whirl of Life back in 1915. We watched the magnificent Rudolph Valentino dance the tango in the 1920s film The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And of course, how could we look at the 1930s without enjoying the incomparable Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers? We saw them in Swing Time and Top Hat, 2 of the 10 films that they danced in together. We now make our way into the 1940s, and we're going to start with an infectious dance, the Lindy Hop. Now, the Lindy Hop is considered to be the grandfather of all swing dances. It was created back in the 1920s. It was in 1928 that Shorty George Snowden was dancing in a dance marathon, and he created a breakaway dance that broke the monotony of the marathon, set the floor on fire, and got him interviewed by news reporters afterward. It was so very exciting. As we move to 1935, Frankie Manning creates air steps like the over the back and all the aerial tosses that we know and love so much from swing dancing. 1941, one of the very best swing dancing films, Hellzapoppin, came onto the silver screen, and Frankie Manning and all of the other great swing dancers were featured in it. Let's go ahead and take a look at Hellzapoppin. Now, this movie is based on a hit Broadway play. It showcases Whitey's Lindy Hoppers dancing the most famous and most spectacular Lindy Hop scene ever preserved on film. As I said before, the dancing was choreographed by Frankie Manning, and we even get to see a bit of Frankie Manning's dancing in here. Now, in the scene that we're watching right now, you're going to notice that there are some gentlemen who don't really look like musicians. That's because what happens here is that these gentlemen are helping deliver a package backstage. And in the package, they find some different musical instruments. And so Slim Galliard and Slam Stewart naturally begin to play. And the dancing, of course, happens because this music is just infectious. Now, something interesting to know is that the routine that we're watching was originally choreographed to a song called Jumping at the Woodside. But Universal Studios didn't want to pay the royalties, so they had a composer on staff write new music for the dance number. And of course, the dancers adapted beautifully, because this is just so well done. And you can see some of the very famous aerial steps that we were talking about that Frankie Manning made so popular. And it's amazing, the dancers just really appear to have springs in their shoes. Now, Hellzapoppin wasn't the only movie to feature swing dancing. It was one of them. Oh, there is Frankie Manning himself. He is, like I said, he created a lot of those steps and choreographed a lot of this. But as I was saying, this wasn't the only movie to feature swing dancing. But this dance number really has become famous because of just how extraordinary it is. And as we all know, when dancing happens on the silver screen, it becomes popular in society. And so this certainly helped to push Lindy Hop to become one of the most popular social dances of that time. Just extraordinary to watch. Wasn't that fantastic? Boy, oh boy, those aerial steps are just so much fun. So of course that's happening up here in North America. The Lindy Hop and swing dancing is becoming extremely popular. Arthur Murray helps with that, of course, by creating an East Coast swing syllabus that is taught at his dance studios. There's another influence that's coming in as well that we can see in a 1941 film, and that is from South America. Latin dancing takes its place on the American dance floors because of Hollywood bringing up a certain Brazilian bombshell by the name of Carmen Miranda. Carmen Miranda is best known for wearing fruit on her head. She's the Chiquita banana lady. She's got a wonderful, wonderful personality, and she is also famous for her singing and dancing. She started back in the 1930s singing and dancing in musicals and feature films in Brazil. It was there that she got discovered by Lee Schubert, who offered her a contract up on Broadway. And she indeed took it, and she came up and she worked on Broadway for 8 weeks, and a Hollywood star is born. Carmen Miranda was featured in a lot of different films in her iconic Chiquita banana image. And the one that we're going to be taking a look at is At Night in Rio from 1941. We've got some wonderful samba dancing here, and here is Carmen Miranda in At Night in Rio. Now this number is, of course, the famous Chicka Chicka Boom Chick that helped bring these dances to life here in the United States. And you can certainly see the Brazilian influence here, the influence that Carmen Miranda has on the silver screen, just even in the costumes of all of the different dancers. It's interesting to know that this image, the Brazilian bombshell image that she created, she attempted to break free of in the late 40s. And her popularity waned because of it, because it is, it was such fun and so much who she was that popularity waned a little bit when she tried to drop that image. But of course, during her time when she was considered the Brazilian bombshell of Hollywood, she made some very, very big marks in Hollywood. In fact, she was the first Latin American star to be invited to imprint her hands and feet in the courtyard of Green's Chinese Theater. She also became the first South American to be honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And down in Rio de Janeiro, they later constructed a museum in her honor. Now, the samba, of course, is a very popular dance in South America, particularly Brazil, of course, where it's from. It's danced during Carnival in Brazil and was certainly very exciting to Americans when it did come up here and became popular. And there she is, the Brazilian bombshell herself, Carmen Miranda. And you just have to love that fruity headdress on her head. Did you enjoy it? So much fun to look back at these old Hollywood films. So exciting to see all the dancing that happens in them. Now, we've been traveling across time on the silver screen. I'm actually going to take us off the silver screen and put us onto the television screen for 1950s, because from 1950 all the way until 1960, we had the Arthur Murray Dance Party. This was essentially the first version of Dancing with the Stars. Arthur and Catherine Murray would host a dance party, and they would have, famous sports figures and actors and all sorts of interesting, singers and dancers on the show. And they would teach them different dance moves, and they would have a dance party on TV. Of course, this was very influential on social dancing of the time. And so now let's go ahead and take a look at the lovely Catherine Murray hosting the Arthur Murray Dance Party.
Here's a chance for you to learn to dance, because the teachers are going to do a dance to you, and if you can guess the name of it, you will win a gift certificate good for 2 introductory lessons at your nearest Arthur Murray studio. So go and get a pencil and paper now and be ready to jot down the name of the mystery dance.
Now, as you can see, the dancers are dressed in elegant clothes. Gentlemen in their suits, ladies in their dresses. I bet our dancers out there can certainly guess which dance this is. But as you can see in this clip, oftentimes they would have a mystery dance that you would have to name to win a free lesson at your local Arthur Murray Dance Studio. Now, of course, we've got In the Mood playing here, and we can see that these are some jitterbug dancers on the Arthur Murray Dance Party. And there's Catherine herself. So elegant, so lovely. Arthur was a brilliant, brilliant businessman, and he had a lot of pioneer ideas in teaching people to dance, from the footprints to different radio shows to his television program and his dance studios that were revolutionary at the time. And Catherine was often the face of everything. She was very charming and lovely to have on the screen, and as you can see, she's just really a natural. Now, as I said before, they did have, oh my goodness, she's upside down. God, Catherine. They did have different celebrities on the show that were taught different dance steps, just like we see now on Dancing with the Stars. And so again, here we are, one of the very first versions, the very first version really, of Dancing with the Stars. Now, the Arthur Murray Dance Party ran on several different networks, and it ran from 1950 all the way until 1960. So a whole decade of Arthur Murray Dance Party to enjoy on your television set. And when we return, we are going to be continuing talking a little bit about some more silver screen dancing that happened in the 1950s as we look at some of those classic Hollywood-style musicals that took place on the silver screen. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you on the other side on the Ballroom Beat.
Everyone's story is different, so why be limited to just 1 or 2 options? With Norcom's Norflex Home Loan, you're given the flexibility to tell your story. Pick your terms from 8 to 30 years, all while maintaining a low, fixed mortgage rate. You can pay off your loan more quickly or choose a term based on your budget and timeline. Whatever you do with the Norflex Home Loan, make it part of your financial plan. Norflex. Short-term, long-term, your terms. Apply online at norcommortgage.com.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonatti created, perfected, and patented the Bonatti spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonatti invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonatti spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
Beltran Dental Surgery is dedicated to providing the highest quality dental surgery.
Teeth in a Day allows a patient to walk in with their old teeth, sleep under IV sedation, and walk out with a brand new smile. Unlike dentures, Teeth in a Day allows you to eat what you want and still feel like you have your own teeth.
From wisdom teeth removal to implants or creating a whole new smile, Call now or visit our website to learn more about our procedures. Get a brand new smile today.
that loves going to the dentist because it's made for you and me.
My name is Dr. Berger from New Tampa Pediatric Dental, providing a comfortable atmosphere in early dental care. Gives kids a great start for healthy teeth and gums for life.
My middle son did not like to come to the dentist, but now he loves to come to the Beehive.
You don't have to be afraid to go to the dentist. Believe me, Dr. B and his worker bees are the best. Call New Tampa Pediatric Dental today.
Welcome back to On the Ballroom Beat. Right before the commercial break, we were looking at the Arthur Murray Dance Party, a TV show that was the first form of Dancing with the Stars that ran from 1950 to 1960. Now, during the 1950s, there were certainly some fantastic films that were on the silver screen featuring dancers who would make their mark on dance that will last forever. We're talking about, of course, Gene Kelly. In 1952, Gene Kelly starred in Singin' in the Rain. He not only starred in it, he also choreographed it, he co-directed it, and alongside Donald O'Connor and Debbie Reynolds, created what was at first considered to be a modest hit, but is now considered to be one of the greatest musical films of all time. Let's go ahead and take a look at this clip from Singin' in the Rain in 1952 with Debbie Reynolds, Donald O'Connor, and Gene Kelly. Now, I want you to go ahead and make note of the athleticism of Gene Kelly's dancing. He has a very distinctive style of dance that's broad, it's muscular, and it was a deliberate choice on his part as he rallied against what's considered to be like a softness and almost effeminate way of dancing. And that was just a short clip. I'm so sorry. I know there's so much to see with Gene Kelly, but we're going to talk a little bit about him. Fred Astaire, of course, sort of revolutionized the way that filming was done for dance numbers by having the entire body shown throughout, the stationary camera. Remember, he said either I dance or the camera dances, not both. Well, Gene Kelly broke out of that a little bit and actually had some camera movement, experimented with lighting and other different film techniques, such as split screens and animation with live action. He was a little bit more about the whole picture rather than just the couple. And so he kind of changed the way that we look at dance and film as well. Again, like I said, he went for a very athletic type of look to his dance, a very masculine look. He was adamant that to be graceful didn't mean to be soft, and he felt that a lot of dancing was moving a little bit too far to the feminine side. And in fact, he used as an example the fact that John Wayne and some of the best ball players of that time were very graceful without being soft. And so we can see that in his dancing. He certainly has an athleticism about him. He was, of course, dancing with Debbie Reynolds and Singin' in the Rain. She actually was a gymnast, not a dancer. The dancing came a little bit harder to her, and apparently Gene Kelly was a little bit tough on her with it, choosing to dance with Sid Charisse in the Broadway Melody Ballet at the end of the movie and giving Debbie a little bit of a hard time as she tried to pick up on the dance steps. In fact, it's said that Fred Astaire found out about the hard time Jean was giving her, and he offered his assistance to Debbie to help her to get those dance numbers just right. And oh goodness, she really did. In Good Morning, it's such a wonderful dance number, and she worked so hard at it that, like Ginger Rogers in Swing Time, her feet were bleeding by the end of the recording of that number. A couple other little interesting facts for you about Singin' in the Rain. When Gene Kelly was actually filming the Singin' in the Rain song, he had a 103-degree temperature. Can you imagine what a fever he had going? And still such a marvelous and famous scene. Another interesting little tidbit for you, Donald O'Connor, he smoked about 4 packs of cigarettes a day. So they say that after filming the famous scene for Make 'Em Laugh, that he had to take several days off to just kind of recover from the cardiovascular nature of that number. So just a couple fun facts for you there about Singin' in the Rain, one of the most famous Hollywood musical movies ever made, 1952. We're going to scoot over to the end of the 50s now. We're going to move to Silk Stockings of 1957. This is an interesting film because Fred Astaire is in it, and mind you, he's almost 60 years old when he filmed Silk Stockings. He rejoined Sid Charisse. They worked together in 1953's The Bandwagon, and they rekindled this wonderful partnership for Silk Stockings. Sid Charisse, of course, was often cast for her dancing, not so much her acting ability, and she really is a fine dancer indeed. Now, what is really interesting about this next dance number that we're going to take a look at is the juxtaposition of old Hollywood with the new rock and roll of the 1950s. This is called the Ritz Rock and Roll with Fred Astaire. Let's take a look. Now, I also want to mention, we were talking about Singin' in the Rain, something else that Gene Kelly did that was different than Fred Astaire was he kind of got rid of the top hat and tails feeling. He was wearing more regular clothes when he was doing his dance numbers. And as we can see here, Fred Astaire is in his customary top hat, tuxedo with tails. Now, it's interesting to mention that Sid Charisse, who we see here and there, she's sitting at the table watching this number. Sid Charisse had the unique opportunity of partnering with both Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly in different movies and different films. Because she had experience with both dancers, she had interesting insight into what it was like to work with both of these gentlemen. Of course, she said that, it was a privilege to work with both of these fine dancers who certainly made their mark on dance of their time. But one of the interesting observations she made was that Fred Astaire was particularly good at choreographing for himself, also for his partner, but not quite as much for the entire group. She said Gene Kelly excelled at that Gene Kelly had a much broader vision and was better at creating the entire musical number and sort of, as we were saying before, the camera movements, the whole picture, whereas Fred Astaire had a narrower scope. And of course, with his natural ability, he just had no trouble at all with his own dance movements and with those of his partner. As I had said in last week's episode, he's certainly been working in partnerships, dancing for a long time, as he started on vaudeville with his sister Adele, and then of course moved into films. Ginger Rogers, Sid Charisse. Now, as we can see, the 1950s were filled with wonderful Hollywood musicals that featured great musical numbers with dancers that were shaping the popularity of dancing in America. I want to point out a couple other notable musicals of the 1950s. In 1951, An American in Paris and Showboat came out. 1953, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes with the lovely Marilyn Monroe and also Kiss Me Kate. In 1955, Oklahoma and Guys and Dolls, which had 36 amazing dance scenes. And in 1956, The King and I. 1957, Jailhouse Rock, Funny Face. Lots of really great musical numbers. that graced the silver screen in the 1950s. Now, at the end of this dance number is a very, very iconic moment. I want you to take a look for it. Fred Astaire had decided that this was going to be his last film. And so, at the end, take a look right here, he's going to go ahead and pop down that top hat to show you that he is finished. Very interesting little fact there about Fred Astaire, and in fact that was when he started to start his retirement from the silver screen. Now, at the end of the 1950s, in 1959, there were some teenagers in Tampa who started doing a brand new dance that got noticed. Their feet basically stayed in one place while their hips, their torso, their arms sort of rotated on the balls of their feet. Hank Ballard saw this when he was in Tampa, and he found it very interesting and inspiring. And because of it, he wrote the song, The Twist. It was on the B-side of his record, Teardrops on Your Letter. And Dick Clark also noticed this great dance that was so popular with the teenagers. He noticed the new song, The Twist, and thought it was fantastic. However, he did feel that Ballard's reputation didn't really fit the wholesome feeling that he wanted for American Bandstand. I'm back on TV now. And so he encouraged Cameo Records to have Chubby Checker re-record The Twist because he had a better image for American Bandstand. And so in 1959 he recorded it, and in 1960 it was a #1 hit. Let's take a look at The Twist.
In the country all over the place, hottest dance sensation in the last 4 years, a thing called The Twist. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Chubby Checker.
And here's Chubby Checker singing his very famous song, The Twist, which of course, as we just said, was first recorded by Hank Ballard. After this, there were so many different twist songs. Let's Twist Again, the Peppermint Twist, which was created about the Peppermint Lounge where folks like to go dancing. What is so unique about The Twist is that you don't have a partner for it. And so the popularity of The Twist, though it was great fun, it certainly, people loved it and had a great time doing it. It takes us into what some folks might consider to be the prohibition period of ballroom dancing. Because like I said, folks are still dancing, but they're dancing separately now, and they're doing a dance style that requires little technique, little training, little discipline. It's very easy, anybody can do it. And so ballroom dancing kind of takes a dip, and not the kind of dipping that we normally like to do. Interestingly enough, Arthur Murray decides to retire, and the franchise continues and goes on. Fred Astaire, whose dance studios were actually started by a couple of brothers. They associated him, of course, for his name because of his wonderful dancing. He also steps away from the dance studios in 1966. There's just not a lot of partner dancing going on, and so it's a very interesting time for ballroom dancing. But indeed, it does persevere. It does make it through this strange time, especially of the late 60s and early 70s, and is saved by the disco era, which we'll be talking about next week. But before we finish, we do want to pay tribute to The Twist, as it was a very popular dance of the 1960s. We're going to take a look now at the film, which is starring Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon, Beach Blanket Bingo. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Made for two now. And a boy and a girl. That's a game for me and you now. Yeah, let's give it a whirl. Beach blanket bingo. Beach blanket bingo.
Now, this film came out in 1965, and of course, Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon are famous for their beach movies. And we can see lots of examples of fun twisting going on. But as we, as ballroom dancers, can clearly see, it's definitely different than the other films we've been looking at. The discipline is just completely different. Separate, but it's still the in the 60s, we also had other dances coming into fashion in the late 60s, the boogaloo and the swim and the monkey. A lot of silly and fun dances, but again, all of them being danced individually and not with a partner.
sassy, sassy.
Right blanket?
Wrong man. Beach blanket, bingo. Beach blanket, bingo.
Now, these are the opening credits to this 1965 film, Beach Blanket Bingo.
Play the game like you should do now. That's the start of the fun. When you find a girl for you.
And of course, Annette Funicello is originally from the Mickey Mouse Club of the 1950s. Certainly the most famous Mouseketeer of her generation. We now know from our own generation, the new Mickey Mouse Club of the 90s, we have lots of different stars that came over. Britney Spears, Astaire, Justin Timberlake. But Annette Funicello was certainly the biggest star of the 50s. Thank you for traveling with me through Dancing on the Silver Screen. This week we looked at the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Next week we're going to take a look at the 70s and beyond as we continue dancing on the silver screen through an entire century right here on the Ballroom Beat.
Cha-cha on the Ballroom Beat. Whoa, 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 cha-cha on the ballroom beat. Got 2 left feet, get on the ballroom beat. They're dancing in the street, they're on the ballroom beat. We can tango, we can swing, we can do anything. Walking through the door and waltz on the floor. You wanna feel the heat, get on the ballroom beat. Cha-cha on the ballroom beat. Foxtrot on the ballroom beat. Salsa on the ballroom beat. Cha-cha on the ballroom